Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Millennium News. This is Forid Hossain with today's top stories. Hillary Clinton launches 2016 White House bid. Sudan votes in polls expected to extend Bashir's rule. Egypt's Sinai Peninsula hit by deadly bomb attacks. U.S. Cuba tie faces bumpy road ahead, says analysts. And Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina orders ministers to follow code of conduct during state elections. Now the details. Hillary Clinton cast herself as a champion for everyday Americans on Sunday, kicking off her long-awaited second run for the White House with a vote to fight for a level playing field for those recovering from the economic times. Clinton, who begins the 2016 presidential race as the commanding Democratic frontrunner, entered the fray with a flurry of video, email and social media announcements that indicated she had absorbed some of the lessons of her painful 2008 loss and would not take anything for granted this time. This time, the video launching her campaign portrayed her as a warmer, more empathetic figure, had laid the groundwork for a more populist economic agenda. Meanwhile, Hillary Clinton's campaign rollout on social media set Twitter abuzz as she likely hoped. But part of the discussion quickly veered away from the candidate herself to her new lawn, and it got a hearty thumbs down. The blocky blue H with a horizontal red arrow running through it looked like a road sign pointing to a hospital, some said. It looked too similar to the logo for FedEx, others complained. It could easily be compared with a World War II-era Hungarian fascist party logo, a journalist for the Wall Street website Business Insider pointed out. Attacks from Republicans have already started. Jeb Bush, former Florida governor and brother of George W. Bush, who expected to stand as a Republican candidate, tweeted, "We must do better than Hillary." Another Republican presidential contender, Rand Paul, also criticized Mrs. Clinton for her handling of a September 2012 attack on a U.S. diplomatic compound in Benghazi, Libya, in which the U.S. ambassador was among those killed. Polling stations have opened in Sudan, where general elections are expected to see the incumbent president Omar al-Bashir hold on to power for another 5-year term. More than 13 million people have registered to vote at some 11,000 polling stations across the country. But as voting was set to begin, several polling stations in the capital had no voters at all lined up to cast their ballots. At the St. Francis School in East Khartoum, the first person to vote, 61-year-old Saad Aldin Osman, told Al Jazeera it was his duty to vote for the nation's future and that he would cast his vote for Bashir. The country's main opposition groups are boycotting the elections, in which 14 little-known candidates are challenging the incumbent. At least 14 people have been killed in separate bomb attacks in Egypt's Sinai Peninsula, security forces have said. 8 people died and 45 others were injured in an explosion outside a police station in El Arish. At least 6 soldiers lost their limbs and 2 were wounded in an attack on an armored vehicle near the northern town of Sheikh Zayed. Militants from the Sinai province group, affiliated to Islamic State, have said they carried out the attacks. Sinai has become increasingly lawless since Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak was overthrown in 2011. Insurgents have intensified attacks since his Islamist sensation Mohammed Mursi was ousted in 2013. Even though there's apparent sincerity between two countries to bolster their relationship, it is still evident that the gulf between the two sides remains wide, illustrated by the absence of US and Cuban flags at the carefully orchestrated meeting on Saturday in a sparsely furnished conference room. The U.S. economic embargo, which has blocked nearly all trade between the two nations for the last 5 decades, is firmly in place. Cuba's human rights record still draws scorn from Washington, as does U.S. foreign policy from Havana. While Obama and Castro announced in December they would work to re-establish full diplomatic ties severed in 1961, reopen embassies in each other's capitals, and free up trade and travel. Hundreds of thousands of Brazilians have streamed out into the streets of cities throughout Brazil to demand the impeachment of President Dilma Rousseff over government corruption and economic drift. Sunday's protests were second in less than a month and came as polls showed Rousseff entering the second month of her second term in office with historically low approval ratings. The demonstrations were driven by a massive corruption scandal at the state-run oil company, Petrobras, as well as a splattering economy, a rapidly depreciating currency, and political infighting. The United States urges China to release 5 young feminists who face years in prison over their campaign for gender equality. Authorities detained the women in 3 cities, Beijing, Guangzhou, and Hangzhou, a few days ahead of events planned for International Women's Day on March 8. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry said in a statement Friday, "We strongly support the efforts of these activists to make progress on these challenging issues, and we believe that Chinese authorities should also support them, not silence them." The detention of Wei Tingting, along with Wu Rongrong, Li Tingting, Wang Man, and Jie Chuang, has drawn harsh criticism from the international community. Protesters in several cities have called for their release and taken to social media with the phrase "Free the 5" as a hashtag. Athens bought itself some time by paying back $500 million to the International Monetary Fund, but time is short. Greece is still expected to run out of cash within weeks. Its creditors have frozen further aid until officials reach an agreement with the government on a package of economic reforms. Eurozone finance ministers have also told Athens and must present acceptable proposals for fiscal, pension, and labor market reform in the 6 days after that loan repayment was made. Dear viewers, now the news from the country. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has told members of her cabinet to not fall foul of the election code of conduct, according to Road Transport and Bridge Minister Obaidul Kader. He told reporters about the Prime Minister's order while visiting Urban Ali Road at Chittagong's Anwara on Sunday. The Prime Minister ordered the members of the cabinet to be careful about code of conduct during the upcoming city corporation polls, Kader said. Housing and Public Works Minister and Awami League President member Engineer Musharraf Hossain, State Minister for CHT Affairs Bir Bahadur Usha Singh, and State Minister for Land Saifuzzaman Chaudhary attended a meeting held at Hotel Peninsula in Chittagong on March 31. The meeting discussed polls strategy, though election law bans ministerial involvement in local government polls campaign. A recap of today's top stories. Hillary Clinton launches 2016 White House bid. Sudan votes in polls expected to extend Bashir's rule. Egypt's Sinai Peninsula hit by deadly bomb attacks. US-Cuba tie faces bumpy road ahead, says analysts. And Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina orders ministers to follow code of conduct during state elections. With this, we end our bulletin now. To log into www.millenniumtv.net. Allah Hafiz.